Our next guest is Durriken. He's an awesome guy.
Thank you.
Yeah, he is actually a witch. He has his own coven. He's the manager of Crone's Hollow, which you guys should all come visit. There's a lot of cool stuff here.
Thank you.
And just drop by and pick his mind because he's a well of knowledge.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank
Yeah.
you. So how are you doing?
I'm great, man.
Excellent.
Just ever since I've been embarked on this journey to nowhere, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on.
What have you seen on that journey to nowhere?
Okay, what I've seen is I was telling you about the popping at the Joe Dispenza retreat, how people literally have chakras, and if they center it right, and if they're in the right place in their life, it will just literally pop, and they will go to a source or God source or the quantum field, however you want to call it. That's crazy, dude. That's probably one of the craziest things I've seen.
What else have you seen?
I've seen a witch do magic in Cancun. That was cool. I was telling you how she was doing it with bone carvings.
Yeah.
And she was doing it with a candle. One of the guys read something. I didn't know what it was. It was in Spanish or maybe Latin. And there was, what is it? It was like pay cards.
Okay.
Did you do anything like that? Or
nothing that I'm willing to admit to in this society.
In this society. Got it. But what she told me is she buries it for 2 weeks. What do you think that is about? Like just burying it?
You bury a seed so it will grow.
Okay. Just like the way you bury a thought and it will manifest. Okay. Got it. Cool. Okay. What else? Speaking of manifestation, can you tell me how that will work for someone that doesn't really know anything about magic?
Sure. So the easiest way that I could describe manifestation is you have your desire.
Okay. You're good.
Okay. You have your desire. You have the thing that that you want. And you have to really want it. It can't just be a, I want a piece of candy sort of want. It has to be a deep desire. You wrap that desire up with an emotional shell.
Yes.
And in witchcraft, we've used two of the elements right there. We've got the fire with the desire, the emotional shell with the water.
Okay.
We give it thought or we give it breath. That's the sending it up into the universe for it to manifest. And while it's up there, it starts to crystallize. That crystallization is the earth. And when it becomes too heavy to maintain being a thought form, it manifests in your life. And because the universe already has everything that's needed to create all of that, it creates a coincidence for you to find what it is that you've manifested.
That's crazy. That actually fits into the retreat that I went to in
Awesome.
Cancun. Yeah, because he's like pretty much just what you just said, without the crystallizing. But he said it just have a clear intention with an elevated emotion. You have to have like a strong emotion to what you want.
Yes.
And what you desire, you have to know what you want. You can't just be like, I just want a red car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The emotion is a very important part in magic and in manifestation, period. Because without that emotion, there's no fire. There's no water. There's nothing to give it any kind of life. It's just a thought. It's something you imagine. You need to build that up to work it into manifestation, into creation. We are co-creators of the universe. We are of the same race as the gods. And the gods can create things with a click. They can create things with a thought. We have to work a little harder at it.
Okay. That does make sense. It even says in the Bible we have the power of God within us. Yeah.
That's why we were created in His image. We are the mirror of God, and God is our mirror.
Yes, that makes sense. You one thing you said, consciousness. Where do you think that came from?
Consciousness?
Yeah.
I think that consciousness is a non-static and a non-local phenomenon. I believe, from a witchcraft perspective, I believe that all things are animated by a spirit. Whether it's the computer or the camera, this headset, you and I, all things are animated with its own spirit. We humans were a collection of cells. Each of those cells has its own spirit, which makes us a conglomerate being. Our spirit is a conglomeration of all the spirits that live within us. We, in turn, are part of a larger conglomeration of spirits that creates something else. If something exists beyond that, it's beyond my ability to imagine. what that might be a conglomeration of. And so consciousness in kind of a terminal way is the universe trying to understand itself.
The universe trying to understand itself. Okay. And do you think there's one consciousness, like we're all somehow equally connected?
Absolutely. I think that you and I are the same person.
You and I are the same person.
We are the same person. We are just having two different experiences of the same reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, okay, speaking of reality and the veil, last time you were talking about that, do you think there's like a hologram world or a world beyond this one, like different dimensions?
So I think that I would use different terminology.
Whatever you want to use, we're just having to talk.
But yeah, the holographic idea that I was reading about this recently, that your reality is actually two-dimensional, but we experience it in 3 dimensions because it's a holographic projection. I really clicked with that. I'm like, okay, that makes a hell of a lot more sense.
What do you mean? Can you just explain it to me? Like,
sure. So, in basic geometry, you have, the 1 dimension, which is a single point. You have 2 dimensions, which is, length and width. Then you have the 3rd dimension, which is height, length and width. Well, so the true reality is on a flat plane. It is just length and width. But in order to perceive it, we have to exist in a 3rd dimension, and so we are a holographic projection of these 2 dimensions. The 3rd dimension doesn't actually exist in a way that is tangible. So it clicks really well because it goes with the idea that there is something that separates us from perceiving reality in its fullness and in its trueness,
100%.
which is that veil.
Which is a veil.
It's also called Maya, the illusion. And one of our great works in the world as human beings is to get a glimpse through Maya, to see beyond the illusion of reality to what reality truly is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to do. When I was at that retreat, I told you about the energy chakras. The energy chakras. Just getting it up there because apparently, but this is science proving it that it actually exists. So it's not like woo. It's legitimately science what you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
So they broke it down like 7 days, and there's like books and books on it. So apparently, you get it to your pineal gland, and apparently that's like the transducer, the antenna.
Yeah, a lot of people believe that. Yeah, it makes biological sense that the pineal gland would work that way, since it's also where DMT is manufactured.
Yeah.
From a witchcraft perspective, of course, I look at it a little differently.
How so?
In the way that I work, in the tradition that I work, the flesh itself is not inhabited. The flesh is a spirit of its own. Like I was talking about the conglomeration of the spirit. And so our consciousness doesn't reside inside of our biology, and because it doesn't reside in our biology, the way that biology works is it will affect our spirit, but it doesn't control it. So the pineal gland, we can say that it is the 3rd eye and cross it over through the cultures in that way, pull it from science into mysticism. But mystically, the 3rd eye would exist whether we had a pineal gland or not. And it does exist whether a person has a pineal gland or not. It makes a biological marker in the same way that, your kidneys might mark your kidney path in Chinese medicine, or the way that your thyroid would connect to your throat chakra.
Yeah, which is the 5th chakra, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I learned that too.
Awesome.
Dude, I've been telling people about this, like riding brooms. And they're like, oh, you've been riding brooms? Or like you've been hanging out with witches? I was like, no, dude, it actually means something completely different, which I learned from you telling me. So tell me what that means.
Sure. So the idea of a witch riding a broom comes from a very old initiatory practice where witches would create an ointment. It's called flying ointment. It was created from rendered fat of pigs. It had hallucinogens in it, and they would spread that on the broom. Now, when witches practice, that kind of magic. They practiced naked. And so the flying ointment entered the system through the genitals, or in the case of men, through the anus. And it was our form of astral traveling before the word astral traveling it even existed.
Got it. Which actually makes perfect sense because people say they saw witches in like the cornfields riding a broom, yelling, having fun. You guys were just having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
like tripping.
And there are people who are naturally sensitive, who aren't practitioners of witchcraft or of mysticism. We hear about them all the time. You know, they see ghosts, they're aware of presences, but they don't believe in any of it. Those people did, in fact, see witches riding brooms up in the sky because that's where the witch was. They were astral projecting. And that person had enough of a sensitivity to see it happening, to see the witch take off.
What do you think that's from? Like, some people are just more susceptible to, like, seeing ghosts or just, like, say magic in a sense, or, like, they're more intuitive. What do you think that comes from?
I think it comes partially from one's ancestry and how open that ancestry was to the idea of it.
And it's just passed down.
And then it's passed down, yeah. It's in witchcraft, we call it the witch's blood.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that not everybody can have access to that. It's just some people are more prone to it. The same way that someone is, the way that someone can be a savant at playing an instrument. Everyone can learn how to play the piano, but not everyone can learn how to be Beethoven.
Mm-hmm. The way I see it is like being a professional athlete. Mm-hmm. Some people are just truly gifted. Yeah. And they're good. But then again, there's other people that work really, 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 really hard. Say like Cristiano Ronaldo. He works at the gym 3 hours a day. And he just gradually becomes really, really talented at it. It's like the same way. Yeah. Either you're born with it or, you know.
You got to work at it. Yeah.
Or what if you're born with it and you work at it really hard, then you're Merlin.
Yep. I mean, Beethoven wouldn't have been Beethoven without the piano.
Yeah. Was Beethoven the one that went deaf?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy, dude. Yeah, that's true. He wouldn't have been Beethoven without the piano. But that's literally, I see that as magic when you see someone like that doing it. Because you still see what they're doing, but can't do that.
No, it is a form of supernatural ability.
Yeah.
You know, being a savant is a supernatural ability. We've, in the modern world, we've often cast aside those who have those extra abilities. We call them savants. We call them, lunatics.
They call them weirdos and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But in my life, like I've always been like a little bit of an outsider. I have friends, childhood friends. Like I'm sociable, but like I can't really be put into a box because I'm just super curious and like. But
that in itself is a superpower.
Yeah, childhood curiosity. That's why I'm here. That's it. I just want to know what's going on, dude. And the more I dig into it, like, oh, okay. Yeah.
And the further back that you go into our history, you find that those people who had those supernatural abilities that the majority didn't quite understand or click with, had to find roles in society. They became the medicine men and the medicine women, the cunning man, the village wise woman. They became the sheep herder, whom we would call today as being autistic. They became the divine clown, who drag queens now emulate. They became.
Whoa, let's touch on that.
Okay, so
what do you mean?
I don't know.
Divine clown.
Yeah, the divine clown.
That sounds cool in itself.
I don't know. I don't know quite a lot about it. And a drag queen who has done her research into playing drag will be able to give you so much more information.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to look into that. But in short, the divine clown is the person who stands as society's mirror. They look at society and tell society what's up. So we get that obviously with drag queen sass. But they also didn't conform to gender roles. They could switch between dressing like a man or dressing like a woman. They could switch between being a hunter or being a gatherer. And they were one of the most revered figures in many societies. There are Native American tribes and nations who have something similar. I think it's called Wanka-Tonka?
One of the Native American tribes.
I think that's the Lakota name for it, but I could be very wrong. But it was, they were a type of divine clown. And yeah, it's somebody with a great supernatural ability to transcend humanity.
Why do you think those people are like ostracized?
I think they're ostracized today because they don't fit into the categories that we believe people should be fitting into.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why gay people were ostracized for so long. It's the same reason why when the Italians immigrated to New York, they were ostracized, or the
Guineas,
Irish, or the Germans.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't fit into the mold.
They didn't fit into the mold.
And people who don't fit into the mold, we either learn how to fit into it or we learn how to be subversive.
Got it. I see it as like you're kind of questioning the status quo, and it could be threatening to some people in power.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then again, we're human. What you don't know, you don't understand, and you fear that comes into play.
Well, and I really don't think that that's part of our biology to fear the unknown. I think our biology gives us fear responses, and it's basically like two fear responses that are true, and it's the fear of the fear of falling, which every child has. You know, if you hold a baby up, don't do this. If you hold a baby up and then drop your hands really suddenly, the baby will grasp. It's an instinctive fear.
Yeah.
And then the other fear, I think, is a fear of serpents or snakes or something like that. Basically, something that can kill us without us seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the only true fears that humanity has. The fear of the unknown it's not a fear or a phobia, it's a not seeing. It's a blindness. And so when you can't see somebody that you know is right in front of you, like the ostracized, they're right in front of you, but you can't see them because they don't meet what it is that you believe they should be,
Mm-hmm.
you become uncomfortable. And that discomfort has nothing to do with the person, it has to do with yourself. Because you're not willing to open your eyes. You're not willing to see through the illusion, through Maya, to experience a reality beyond your own ability to understand.
Right. Me personally, I would just be curious, just go ask them, like, hey, so what's up? What's going on there? And just have them explain to me.
And it's kind of a weird belief, but speaking of paranormal and I believe that if aliens were to ever visit us, if they haven't, extraterrestrials, we wouldn't know that they existed at all because they exist so far outside of our ability to see. We wouldn't know they exist. There could be one standing in front of me right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't know because it exists so far out of my ability to understand.
I'm sure they've been here. But they're like, oh, these people are stupid. They're blowing each other up, causing wars in Russia and Ukraine. Yeah, they're like, this is one planet.
Or maybe they're our progeny from thousands of years in the future, or figured it out.
Yeah.
Time travel, and are back here looking at us going, whew, man, did we fuck up.
Big time. Yeah, higher consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could be it. Okay, so we're talking about last time about Hollywood and how they portray witches.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So Hollywood is a great way to get introduced to witchcraft. And everybody wants to have the power to make changes to your world according to your own whims and will. And witches, the good witches, and I don't mean, good, I mean the good witches, the ones who know how to work it, view Hollywood and all the hype around witchcraft with a smirk, but also as a tool of instruction. Hollywood gives us such great visuals nowadays that it can guide us in a spell that we want to do. A ring of blue fire, for instance. It's hard to imagine a ring of blue fire until you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood has given us rings of blue fire for us to visualize now. It's hard to imagine a light beam shooting out of a wand, but thanks to Hollywood, we can imagine a light beam shooting out of a wand. And through that, our abilities extend and our magic becomes richer and fuller.
Okay. Got it. Do they portray it right, though? How witchcraft is? I mean, I'm not talking about to that extent, but like...
They portray it right in that they are using visualizations that we do
Mm-hmm.
and making them appear to manifest.
Nice. Got it. One thing that you taught me, dude, that stuck with me is don't see the world from your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
See it for what it is, which is actually a little challenging, dude, because I grew up with so many different, experiences and knowledge. Having my background, having parents that are like, oh, don't question things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm making $10 an hour, that's good. Just, be thankful you have that. And then just seeing a completely different world.
Mm-hmm.
And you were right, the advice you gave me, like, just don't see it from your own eyes, just see it for what it is.
Yeah, it's really easy to fall into our own cultures and to understand the world through our own culture. And stepping out of that, it's going to be difficult. It's going to make people uncomfortable. But when you do that, you get that one step closer to seeing truth.
Yeah.
To seeing God.
Yeah. Seeing truth, definitely. I mean, that's why I just want to see it. I just want to see it in its aesthetic beauty for what it is, which is a little challenging, though. I'll be completely honest. I mean, but it's ever since I've taken your advice on that, I've been a lot less judgmental, and I'm like, oh, it is what it is,
Yeah.
And it's also helped me in sales too, because I don't have to preconceive people and put them in boxes. Just wait. Oh, sir, I want dentures. I don't ask them. Oh, this, that. You might lose this, but you want dentures? I'll help you get dentures. Whatever.
There's a concept in witchcraft called perfect love and perfect trust. In perfect love, the ideal is that you love somebody not in spite of, but because of. And perfect trust doesn't mean that you trust somebody, with all of your money. It means that you trust somebody to be who they are. And you can't ever find out who they are if you don't let them tell you who they are.
That's true, too. Then don't people kind of tell you their best self? And then you just kind of like...
They do, absolutely. And by someone telling you who they are, it's not just a verbal thing. It's, how they act, how they behave. How are they with you versus how are they with others?
Yeah.
How are they when they're by themselves? When they think that nobody's looking? How are they?
Yeah. That's why when I date girls, instead of like going out, stuff like that, honestly, I really love traveling, especially with girls or guys, like for a week. So those people and you get out of your comfort zone. And you truly see that person for who they are. When they're starving, they're hungry, they're anxious, they can't really hide it, Versus on the first date, you're like, oh, hey, so what do you do, So, yeah, that's just like a good way.
It's a good way to see at least that side of them.
Yeah, definitely. To know what you're getting yourself into. Okay.
I wish I'd thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, oh, man. Okay, he's not going to watch this. What else? Full moons. There's definitely energy there.
Absolutely.
You're telling me stuff off air. Tell me a little more on air.
In brief, there are two schools of thought that the full moon is either a perfect time to start your manifestation work, or the way that I look at it is that the new moon, the dark moon, is the perfect time to start your manifestation work. And as you are building that energy up and continuing to send it into the universe, your mind, your energy, your magic actually makes the moon start to grow, start to wax. And when it is too full to hold all of that energy, it starts to wane. And in that waning, all that energy is manifestation coming down until it goes dark again. And then you just repeat that cycle. Working the full moon as the time when you are supposed to start your manifestation works for many people. My way makes more sense to me. But, whatever floats your boat. You can do magic at any point in time. We use the moon because it's a convenient focal point. If we didn't have the moon, we'd probably use something else.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I was going to ask you one more thing. Do you think, what is it about like people dying during the full moon or people just becoming more animal-like, getting into fights? Because my roommate is it's like a necromancer, and I can tell there's like always more trouble during that time of the month. What do you think that comes from?
So I'll give you two answers to that. One of them is a little more science-based.
Okay.
In that because it's a full moon, it's brighter. When it's brighter, we're naturally more active. Being more active means we can see more things, and people can piss us off more easily, magically. Remember how I was saying that it's raining down all of that manifestation?
Yes.
How much of that manifestation, that energy, didn't actually get worked with intent? And so it's just free floating out there waiting to do something. And so it does something to the people who are naturally susceptible to it. Makes them go crazy. For people who are dying, it's enough to push them through the edge so that they can get over to the other side. If you're a witch, you just gather that shit up, you bottle it up, and you start working it so that your manifestation happens, but also you get this reservoir of more power. That's one of the reasons why witches create moon water and moon bottles, is as a way of catching the excess that was put up there but never worked enough for it to actually manifest for somebody.
You mean it's like a bottle where they try to capture energy?
Yeah, it's like it's catching lightning in a bottle.
Catching lightning in a bottle, and you do that on the full moon.
We do that at the start of the full moon, and then as it rains down, we continue it.
Okay, so two things. When I was at that retreat, my man, I learned so much. Apparently, they call it the witch's hour or magic hour, so it's from 1 to 4 a.m.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah, where apparently your melatonin is very high, and you have 1 foot in reality and 1 foot in the dream state. That's a great time to meditate, apparently.
It is.
So, or to manifest things.
It's also a great time to do any kind of magic, the witching hour. Traditionally, the witch's hour...
witch's hour, that's what it is.
In Northern Europe, depending on how far north you went, it was usually right around 3 a.m. It is a time when your melatonin is really high, when it's easier to enter those hypnagogic states where manifestation becomes easy, where magic becomes easy.
Yeah.
Many witches will work right around the witching hour because it's the psychic world is silent. And in that silence, we can call out and speak universes into being.
Okay. There's definitely science behind that. 100%. Like, yeah. Like, there's stuff that's going on in your body and even psychologically during those hours.
And imagine, living as our ancient ancestors did, when everyone else in the tribe was asleep and you were awake at 3 a.m. Think of all the things that you could get done.
Yeah.
Think of, our ancestors, those who were able to arise at that time. That's when they could start building those deep relationships with the wolves. And from that, we get dogs. It's when we started to pay attention to other animals and plants that were around us and start working out how they worked and how we could build those partnerships with them.
Yeah. I mean, or just, if you want to be productive, just get up.
Yeah.
At that time, no one's going to bother you. It's 3 a.m., 4 a.m.
Yeah, everyone's sleeping.
Yeah, and that's why I'm a morning person. Like, people made fun of me for going to bed at 10. But hey, I'm up early, dude.
Yeah.
Meditating for an hour, hitting the gym, or just doing whatever I need to, because no one's going to bother me.
It's a perfect time to... It's a perfect time to be with yourself.
Okay. That's good. Next, I know you know this, but Gnosis. So, it can mean... I feel like in the magic world, it's a little overused.
Okay.
Tell us a little more about what Gnosis is. Or Samadhi, as they call it in yoga.
So Gnosis, from a witch's perspective, is the ability to sit in the place of God and to know what God knows. In that moment of Gnosis, nothing is hidden from us. And it's not something, at least in my witchcraft groups, the people that I hang out with, we don't use that word lightly, because it is a taxing experience to sit in that moment and be in perfect union with all of creation and to have nothing hidden from you.
So what most people don't know, when you're in a state of Gnosis, you're tapping into your unconscious, you're tapping into your body's and your mind's fullest potential.
You're also tapping into everyone else's unconscious.
Yeah, that's true too. The elements around you. It's I don't know how to say it. Like, maybe like yoga and yogis, when they reach a different state, it's similar or the same?
Yeah, it's there's the oh God, he was a monk, and he put his hand through a stone wall.
Yeah, you're just vibrating differently.
Yeah,
that's totally possible. Scientifically, it's possible. I mean, I don't know how to do it, but I've never seen anyone do it. Yeah, that's true. It's a possibility. What do they call it? Kundalini Breaths. Do you think getting your chakras up there and popping, like we were talking about earlier, is that the same as Gnosis, or it's different?
No, I think it's different. That's a very ecstatic event when you get your chakras popped like that. Absolutely, it takes you above and beyond.
Yeah.
And it does give you access to Godhood, to Christ consciousness. With Gnosis, it's not so much about going up as it is about going down. It's about going deep so that nothing can be hidden from you. When you're up above, your perspective is warped, it's skewed. Everything looks smaller. But when you're down below, everything looks bigger. And because everything looks bigger, you note more details.
Okay. How would someone be able to reach a state of Gnosis? Is it through deep meditation?
That's one way of doing it. Drugs, chemical inducement helps. In the deep meditation, you need to set your ego aside with it. You have to be willing to die in order to enter Gnosis. And, you have to be willing to give up.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's very easy to do.
Yeah.
Even witches who have been practicing for 20, 30 years, it's hard for us to let that happen for any length of time. We cannot exist in a sustained state of Gnosis at all times. We get glimpses, we get flashes, we get those things that were hidden are suddenly revealed. But it's not a constant state of being, at least the way that I practice. Other people, they may be able to enter this state of Gnosis or a state of Gnosis and experience it at all times. Mm-hmm. I think I would go mad. I wouldn't be able to live in society and civilization if I were in that state at all times. It's one of the reasons why monks at a certain point in their process of becoming bodhisattvas become hermits. It's because they can no longer exist in the same world as everyone else.
So you've reached it before?
I've reached Gnosis, yes.
Yeah, okay. Have you ever met someone that just at will can reach Gnosis?
No.
I mean, I'm sure it's possible, because if they've done this for 40 years.
It's absolutely possible, but I've never met that.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's not my experience.
Okay.
It took me a long time to get here.
Yeah. I mean, but it's trial and error as long as you keep going. What else? Do you have, is there any preconceived notions of witches that you don't like?
No. I actually like them all. Elaborate. It's really easy to walk around the world with a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And all that does is give other people power over you. But if I say I'm a witch and it terrifies you, you've given me power over you. In that terror, I can choose to lead you down a very dark path of self-hatred and self-pity and even death. Or I can use that power to bring you into a better place. Depending on how I feel on the day, depends on where you go.
Yeah, or how you're treated.
If you look at me with awe, you're giving me that power. Whenever somebody reveals themselves to be a witch, that instant of reaction is you giving up enough power to them for them to work you. Most witches don't. Most witches will just let it go.
Yeah.
But it's good to be aware that there are those of us, and I'm not saying I'm one.
You're not saying you're not one.
I'm not saying I'm not one. But there are those of us who recognize that instant as being a tether, as being a cord that we can pluck. Yeah. It's like a guitar string. And we can make you sing whatever song we want you to sing.
Got it. You're handing over power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now when I talk to people, I always tell them I have a podcast, and they're like, I want something. Okay, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just accept it. That's it. There's no judgment. Okay, you're who you are. That's cool. Yeah.
And judgment.
Doesn't it help?
Yeah, judgment does nothing to me, but it gives me a great amount of authority over you.
Right, because when I'm judging people, I'm at a lower vibration. Do you believe in that, vibrations?
I use different terminology, but yes.
Yeah, that's what I read. Like people that are new age or new to this type of world, they use vibrations and energies, and then people that are from the old world,
we use different words.
Yeah. What would you use? What word would you use?
So in that case, I would probably say that you're weak. You've weakened.
You're weakened, yeah.
Another way of putting it is that you're sitting in earth.
You're sitting in earth. Okay. And do you think you've become more stronger when you just help people? You do a kind act?
Absolutely. Helping people. The witch's responsibility to society is to help society.
You think so?
Yeah. That's why we were the wise men. We were the wise women, the cunning men, the
witch
healers,
doctors, yeah.
the witch doctors. Of course, when society pissed us off, society died. The same thing is true now. If you piss a witch off, shit goes wrong around you. And it will continue to go wrong until you've made things better. The witch knows how to cure.
Yes.
And how to kill. We know the herbs that ease pregnancy, and we know the herbs to cause abortion. We know what words to whisper to a cow to make their milk pure and fresh, and which curses to throw at the cow to make their milk spoil.
That makes sense. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. What else am I thinking? Okay, let's say someone wants to start off in this world. Mm-hmm. They want to manifest their future. What advice would you give them?
I would first tell them to let go of what it is that they think they don't have. So, if you exist, it's called living in an impoverished mindset. You need to let go of that impoverished mindset in order to manifest. If you live as though you have $1 million, $1 million will find its way to you.
100%. I agree with you with that 100%.
Now, that doesn't mean that you go out and you spend money willy-nilly. It means that you hold yourself as a millionaire holds themselves. Yeah. You know you have the $1 million. Mm-hmm. A millionaire doesn't actually look at $1 million. They just know they have it.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of situation. If you live as though you drive a Ferrari is going to find its way into your garage.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you go around driving recklessly. It means that you have a Ferrari in your garage. Whether you see it there or not, it's there. And you think into that enough, you put enough emotion and enough work into it, the universe has no other choice but to manifest it, to crystallize it, because we are the universe getting to know itself.
Yeah.
And it wants to know itself so much that it will do things that we ask it to. And in exchange, we do things that it asks us to. We're just not always conscious of it.
Mm. Do you think that applies to cancer? Because I've literally seen that happen.
So I think that when it comes to healing elements of the body, there's absolutely spiritual work that needs to be done. An element of the body does cause spiritual imbalance, and that the spiritual work that you do helps your body to restore balance. I think that it is absolutely important to be of the right mindset when you have cancer, mm-hmm. To help yourself get better. It's never been my experience, and I've known a lot of people with cancer, of them to just spontaneously remiss without treatment. One of my coven mates' husbands had leukemia.
Yes.
And we worked it hard. And we worked it hard enough that the universe was able to manifest the perfect donor for him.
Right. But you also told him, keep going to your chemotherapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Don't forget to leave that part out.
You keep doing what the doctors tell you to do because the doctors know the biology. You keep doing what we tell you to do because we know the spirit.
Got it. So put them both together. Mm-hmm. So someone I met at the retreat, I was just talking to him. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm not a part of this group. Mm-hmm. Whatever you guys are doing. I'm like, why are you even here? He's like, my brother has stage 4 cancer. He did chemo last week. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he couldn't walk. He has less than 6 months to live. So I brought him here. Mm-hmm. I met him on day 2. He was not good, brother. He was barely walking. By day 5, 6, this guy was changed. He was eating, awesome. Dancing. Yeah, he was. And I told him his name. And he's like, oh, I changed my name to Alex. I'm like, why would you do that? He's like, because my old, whatever they say, we'll call him Alan. Alan had cancer. He's like, I don't have cancer. Alex doesn't have cancer. And I keep in contact with them. They're actually doing way better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that is actually really good. But seeing it firsthand is like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, it works.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think there's like the power of the thought too that could just cure you?
I wouldn't say cure, but I would certainly say it helps the process along.
Yeah, it definitely helps the process.
And you can't think yourself out of a cold, no matter how hard we've all tried. We can power through it because we've got that positive attitude of this cold isn't going to kick my ass. We power through it to health on the other end. And, instead of it lasting 7 days, maybe it lasts 3.
Right.
Because we put that intention into the work. We put that work into it. But yeah, the cold's going to happen. And it's going to be a biological function.
Okay. And do you guys do blessings yourself?
We do.
Blessings, like blessing food. Because apparently that's a universal thing. I never thought about it until I read the book from Dean Radin, Real Magic. You know what that is. Yeah. So, like, even like in my culture, like when people have shots of vodka, they get up and they say a toast. They're literally blessing the food and the drinks. Do you guys do that too?
We do. We may not do it the same way that other people do. It could be as simple as signing a sigil over the meal. Part of being a witch and cooking is as we are cooking, we know that we are also doing magic. Yeah. And so as we are creating the meal, our hands bless it. And, if you want somebody to fall in love with you, this is a secret.
No. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, pay attention.
If you want somebody to fall in love with you, bake them an apple pie from scratch. Do that with the intention that they fall in love with you. Put all of that emotion of them loving you, knowing that it's going to work, and it will work.
But they have to eat the apple pie?
They have to eat the apple pie.
Oh, okay, got it. They have to eat the apple pie, and they will fall in love with you. Yeah. I'm sure, if someone cooks me out, I'll really appreciate it, but yeah.
It works.
Nice.
I've seen it work. People who you're like, that's probably not going to be a good relationship, end up having a great relationship. Because one person put enough effort into creating the pie that they're showing the partner, I love you this much. And the other person eats, they imbibe that energy, that blessing of love, and it becomes part of them.
Nice. That makes sense. Which brings me to the next thing we're talking about. You said magic can be easy or hard. Like if you want to date a pig, it's really easy. Like you can just find one and you can manifest it. Like a girl, that's whatever. But if you want to date like a supermodel on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and not see her on Tuesday and Thursday, that requires a lot more work and more energy or more attention.
Absolutely.
Can you elaborate on that a little more?
So the more complex a system is, the more likely it is to fail. That's kind of a universal principle.
Yeah, and that applies to anything.
It works with machines and it works with magic. The simpler something is, the easier it will manifest. So if you have absolutely no requirements for a lover, we'll say a lover, no requirements. It's just, I want somebody that will have sex with me. You're going to get somebody who just has sex with you. If you want the supermodel Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, that requires so much precision and so many moving parts that the likelihood of it actually working is really low because there are too many moving parts. There are too many cogs, too many gears, too many winding. Doesn't mean that it won't happen.
It can happen.
And if you are diligent in the work, it will happen. But it's also really easy for somebody with absolutely no idea of magic and just a little bit of intention to come in and break that entire spell because of how complex it is. The simplest curses, for instance, are the hardest to break. The ones that are the most complex are the easiest to break.
Okay. Before we get to curses, which I want to ask some questions about that. So let's just say you do it once, you get the supermodel, then you get another supermodel, then you keep doing it, you build a pattern. Does it go from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind? So at that point, you can do it a lot easier.
In a manner of speaking, you become more familiar with the path.
Yes.
So it would happen faster, certainly. It's like when you're in an unfamiliar city, and you don't know the streets, it's going to take you a little longer to get anywhere, even with Google Maps telling you which way to go. But once you've done it a few more times, it becomes more habitual and it's easier for you to navigate. So instead of it taking a full hour, it takes 45 minutes.
Yes.
If you're speeding, which is one of those situations where even somebody who doesn't do magic can come in and throw things up by them being a cop and pulling you over.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're speeding, it can take you half an hour. And then, you get pulled over by a cop, and then the entire magic bursts, no longer functions, and you won't ever be able to achieve that particular spell again.
Okay. Now we're on to spells and curses.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Curses, can they be objects too? Like in Annabelle? The movie?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
They could be objects.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are cursed objects. Anything can be cursed. A curse is a maleficence that exists around a person or a place or a thing. A dog can be cursed.
But how can a dog be cursed? Like, is this someone cursing the dog, or the dog just born cursed?
The dog could be born cursed. But if it meets the right person, that curse could actually be a blessing to that person.
That's really nice to hear.
Cursing is, it's all a matter of perspective. What's good for the spider is bad for the fly.
Yes. That's why I don't want to judge.
So, yes, there are objects that can be cursed.
Okay.
And those who come into contact with them will be cursed.
Okay.
And most of the time, those objects are things that other people shouldn't be messing with anyway. It's like my things that I have put, we'll say it's a protection spell on. If you mess with it without my permission, it's going to burn you. It's going to curse you. And so that makes it a cursed object, even though to me it's just a protected object. To you, it's cursed.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if you don't know what you're doing. I have a rule of thumb about magic. If I don't know what I'm doing, don't do it. Don't freaking do it, man.
I mean, it might be fun to try it, though. If you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what mistakes could be made and where those mistakes could lead you.
Yeah, but I also think of Ouija boards and opening up the wrong door and letting something in that shouldn't.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking of. Which probably will happen if I mess with Ouija board because I'm giving that my attention.
But here's the question, is what shouldn't you let in? And why are you judging that it shouldn't be let in?
I mean, now you're making me think. Yeah. Like movie Hollywood and things like that. Like you open up the wrong door. You let
what
it back.
Makes it the wrong door?
Because it's not the door I wanted to open up. I want to see my grandma, and then something else comes through.
Okay.
Maybe it's the right door at the right time for them, but not for me. You know what I mean? You let in the wrong entity.
Sure. And so it's not the wrong entity, it's just not the entity you were expecting.
Yes, it was not the entity I was expecting. Yeah.
So it's not the wrong door, it's just not the door you thought would be there.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you've noticed that when something unexpected happens, it often leads to richer experiences.
Yeah, and life is all about experiences, my friend. Yeah. Got it. Promise I'm not going to mess with you.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
We do teach classes on Ouija boards here at Crone's Hollow every Friday the 13th.
Every Friday the 13th.
Every Friday the 13th.
Okay, got it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do want to come and learn more about it, you can. It is a tool, which is why, but me by myself, I would not mess with it, personally. But if you're under guidance, I think things will go a lot more smoother, right?
And we also make sure that the only doors that open are doors that we tell people they can open.
Okay, but you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that makes things more.
But when I first started, I didn't.
Yeah, but was there someone to show you?
No.
Not at all?
I was doing it without any guidance. I also did it without any preconception. I didn't expect to talk to, great-grandma. I didn't expect to open the door to heaven. Honestly, I didn't expect anything to happen. But it did happen, and it happened in ways that opened me up to different experiences and looking at the world through a new pair of eyes.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's completely right. One thing I want to ask you, can you elaborate what a simple spell or simple curse might be? or what a complex curse might be?
Sure. So a simple curse is telling somebody to fuck off. It's the simplest of curses. It's abrasive. It throws up a barrier between you and them. And it, whether we acknowledge it or not, whenever somebody says something like that to us, it hurts. Just a little bit.
Maybe, yeah, just a little bit. But
Just a little bit.
Learn not to let external factors control what I feel inside.
A more complex curse, the best kind of curse is the kind of curse that doesn't require a whole lot of work.
You mean best as in most effective?
Yes. So again, the whole, moving parts thing.
Yeah.
So the best kind of curse is the simplest of curses. But in this case, somebody who has a predisposition toward cancer, toward a deadly kind of cancer, that kind of curse would work to tip it over the edge just enough so that they get it. Another kind, and you'll find this a lot in Southern magic, Southern U.S. magic, is that there are a lot of people who get diabetes out of nowhere.
You mean Southern, like the South?
Yeah, like the South.
Like Alabama, Louisiana.
Texas, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Okay.
They end up getting diabetes just kind of out of nowhere. And it makes absolutely no sense because they've been the same weight, they've eaten the same food, they've done the same things for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and then bam, they get diabetes. And if you go back far enough into what it is that they've done in their lives, you may discover that they pissed off someone that they really shouldn't have.
And they've held a grudge for that long? Or they just set that intention?
They just set it out, yeah.
And eventually got them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense.
So a more complex curse would be trying to magically assassinate a world leader.
Yes.
It's really easy to miss world leaders.
We're just going to leave that at that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, oracles.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the difference between a psychic and an oracle?
I think it's the voice that they speak with. An oracle speaks with the voice of the divine, of a different spirit. A psychic speaks with their own spirit, but their job is to, not filter, their job is basically to open up their mouth and give the spirit voice.
Yes.
An oracle is actually speaking with the voice of the spirit. So it is that spirit's voice. An example would be a medium who is speaking in a different voice than their own. I'm sure everyone has seen some kind of exorcist movie or movie about exorcism. When they are possessed, they're not speaking with their voice.
No, they're not.
That's an example of oracular voice. Whereas with psychics, we use our voice, but it's not our words. Something is using our mouth, but it's our voice that's speaking. Okay. Our vocal cords that are vibrating.
Got it. Dude, how did I start becoming a remote viewer? I've been working on that, and I've been concentrating on my friends, and I call them and ask them this up. They're like, no. But sometimes I randomly call them like, hey, I think of you. So I think there's a connection there. Sure. I mean, it's very low, dial-up connection versus like Wi-Fi high speed. How do I fine tune that a little more? And ladies and gentlemen, remote viewing is being able to know something or be somewhere beyond space and time.
Yeah, it's a form of astral travel, a form of riding your broom. So I mean, there's always the drugs.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go the drug route, it does take meditation
yes.
and learning to differentiate between dreams and reality.
Mm-hmm.
For remote viewing, I would recommend learning more about lucid dreaming and learning how to take control of your dreams more often. When you are in that lucid dream state, you can actually step out of the dream and back into conscious reality without re-entering your body. The first time that I ever remote viewed, I was floating above my body. I realized I was floating above my body. I turned around, looked at myself, heard my mom open the door, because I was a kid when it happened, looked at my mom. She was wearing a brand new shirt that I had never seen, and then I dropped back into my body. The next day, I asked her about where she got her new shirt. And, she didn't think anything of it because it was a new shirt to me, but she'd already worn it that day. And so, yeah, that's just an example. It's spontaneous most of the time for me. It's not something that I really try to accomplish. When I have worked to accomplish it, it was through needing to know what is in my surroundings beyond my immediate visual perception. If there's, like a coyote outside my tent or a cougar hanging out on that ridge that's, just out of sight.
Okay. Dreams. I don't really dream much.
Okay.
Or I probably do. I don't remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember having a vivid dream this morning, but and it was kind of semi-important, but I remember it now. Is there people that dream a lot that can like control their dreams, and like people like me that don't really remember? Is there like a difference? I don't know why.
Part of it, I'm sure, has to do with a person's stress level and what they do during the day. A lot of dreams are our subconscious working through problems. Lucid dreaming is about taking control of those dreams, usually for your own entertainment.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Or to stop nightmares and things like that. A good way to stop a nightmare is to tell yourself that you're dreaming. I am dreaming, I can move, I am moving, and then things start going better for you.
I've had one dream where it was a nightmare, and I kept telling myself, but it was so bizarre and dark that I knew I was dreaming, and I knew it was like, how sometimes you just have a bad like gut feeling. That was I still remember that just that one dream. And my cousin, he's like my brother. He just walked in there and he just sat in the corner, and I was like, dude, what the hell are you doing here? And he's like, oh, what? I'm just here. And I had to call him the next day and tell him. But it was strange.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely strange. Like I caught myself in the dream, which doesn't really happen too often.
So yeah, when I don't really think that lucid dreamers are any more special than people who don't lucid dream. I think that most dreams are our subconscious working through things, and because it's worked through it, we don't have to remember it.
Yeah.
The vivid dreams comes from having a vivid imagination.
Well, in my dream, it was probably more like a nightmare. But what I remember, it was kind of like a bar that some people lured me into. It was definitely dark, bro. And what stood out was there's this butt naked pregnant lady without arms, just on stage, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" But that's just one thing that stood out. Me bald, and yeah.
There's some interesting imagery in there.
There was
being led into a bar. I'm being led into something that I don't want. You pull that out into your conscious life. What is it that you're feeling like you're being led into that you don't want to be led into? People who are entering relationships with red flags will often have dreams like that. People who feel like they're stuck at their jobs will often have dreams about cars that won't start.
But here's the thing about that. What I remember is even in my dream, I was thinking about dream, whether they're real or not, and I sat down in a chair. And when you're in a dream, like chairs are just manifestations of the reality you live in. But I actually sat down in the chair and I felt the chair. And I thought about it. I was like, wait, I'm in the dream and I'm sitting down in the chair. This doesn't happen. I'm not supposed to sit down in the chair. But so it was just, I don't know.
So a lot of people say that you're not supposed to be able to read in your dreams. I'm able to read in my dreams. I do it all the time. I don't necessarily remember what I've read.
Yeah.
But I'm reading in my dreams. Those squiggles, they're actual letters. That make sense. Okay. So I think whenever somebody says that all dream objects or people mean this one thing, just tell them to take a flying leap.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but yeah. Did that answer your question about dreams? Did I answer that?
Yeah,
okay.
In a sense. Like why people dream. Like that makes sense because I don't really have stress in my life. So I don't really need to let it out in a dream state too much. Like I'm sure everyone has a little bit of stress, but like I don't really have that much financial stress. I don't have kids or any problems, Like I live below my means. So I don't really have that problem where I have to dream and then just let it out, which makes sense versus other people that do have those problems. It has to go somewhere.
Well, and it's not just a matter of stress either. It's just problems that we have. I think it was Archimedes, came up with some kind of solution when just after having a dream.
Yeah.
People, that's the way it works. Edison used to take like micro naps throughout the day whenever,
With the ball?
especially whenever he had a problem that he couldn't figure out, because it would come to him in a dream.
Yeah. And I think what he did was he had some ball bearings, and he had like a metal or something. So every time he fell asleep, he would loosen his hand, and he would drop it, and it would just wake him up, and he would come up with the answer.
Yeah.
Right there. That's like that magic place.
Yeah.
That's literally that magic place.
That's what dreaming is.
Yeah. Or the magic hour in a sense. But then I meditate 2 hours a day. So if I have any problems, I let it go. And, on the last note, do you have any advice for people that are in a rut? They're stuck. COVID has taken their job, or they just have problems in their life. You think what is the one thing they could do just to better themselves?
To exist in the eye of the storm and not let the storm carry them away.
You mean be in the present moment?
If that's how they want to take it.
Okay. I'm going to let that simmer down for a little bit. Cool. So, Crone's Hollow.
Crone's Hollow is in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's 3834 South Main Street. The phone number is 801-906-0470. If you want to talk to us, give us a call, visit us. You can also send us a message at inquiries@croneshollow.com.
Or drop by.
Absolutely.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. If you like this episode, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks again, brother.
Absolutely.
For coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.